So the first thing we're going to do is open up Procreate Dreams, find the correct size, the correct frame rate, and then add a draw. This is in order to get the background. These are some of the preferences for the project. Change my name real quick. All right, the first thing we need to do is import all of our layers from Procreate. First, we're going to add 5 tracks for each layer that we're going to import from Procreate. Now this is my image of Bizarro. I'm selecting each of the layers. Then you put your finger down, hold them. Open up Procreate Dreams and add the layers. Now it's a matter of putting each layer in its correct slot or correct position. So far, the layers that I have in there are the clouds, my signature, Bizarro's cape, Bizarro's body, and Bizarro's medallion. Now, this is an issue with placing everything in the correct spot. The background is now flush with the beginning of the signature. The cape is now flush, the body is now flush, and the medallion is now flush with the beginning of the playhead. At this point, we just need to extend each of the layers to fit the entire 30 seconds of the animation. So now we have to work on the background color. So we're in drawing mode, a little scribble symbol that's red in the mid-right section. Just looking for the correct background color. I'm looking for a brush that I can quickly fill in the background. Chose a dark blue. I was hoping to just fill it in, but it does not fill in like the fill-in bucket. So I have to manually go in and make sure the background is completely covered, or the layers are completely covered. And after looking at it, I'm not sure that color's dark enough. Just wanted to make sure that it was completely covered, the entire background. Now I'm extending that background color. I think a darker color will be better. More of a night sky. Again, looking for a bigger brush. And the background's completely colored a different color now. A little darker. Going to rename the project. For the character Bizarro. Go back into the project. One of the extra features of Procreate Dreams is being able to use 3 fingers to adjust the time frames below all the layers. 3 fingers up and down and left and right adjust everything down below. What we're going to do now is add a keyframe at the beginning of the cape layer. We're going to warp. Put one at the end and at the beginning in order to keep that original position. Then we're going to use the record option, which is the circle button in the center right. And to begin that, we'll just zoom into the areas that you want to move or to animate. And in this case, just hold it down and begin moving whenever you're ready. And it starts recording the movements. You'll have to maintain this movement for the full duration of the 30 seconds. Or whatever time you've chosen for your animations. So I'm just going back and forth to imitate wind going through the cape of Bizarro. And now that that's done, we'll go ahead and start it at the beginning of the animation, just to see what it looks like. And if you approve of the animation, we can start with the next layer, which is the medallion. Start at the beginning. I'm going to go into move, try warp again. And there's horizontal controls and vertical controls, and you can increase those controls to give yourself more control over the movement of the layer below. So we're going to try warp, but it ends up not being the best option for the movement of the medallion. So we'll try it out first with the biggest amount of control points. And through trial and error, you can see that some options are better than others. So just moving that a little bit showed me that there's not going to be enough movement. And that another option is called for other than the warp. So move it back to the front. And we're going to try move and scale. And this ends up being pretty easy. There's options where you can change the center point, and we'll put it a little higher, closer to where the neck would be, so that the most of the movement will be below and not centered. Once that's in place, we can add our first keyframe, move and scale. And what we do, we're looking for the bottom right, and we need that little curved angle thing there. And it's going to be very, very subtle, the movement back and forth for the full duration of the 30 seconds. A lot of this is trial and error. You just got to find the right tools, the right options to get the effect that you like. So with that, let's get a better view of the entire thing. Press play, and we have movement in the medallion, independent from movement from the cape. After viewing that once, it seems to move a little bit, a little awkwardly. So what I'm going to do is try to record the movement of just the medallion again. So I'll zoom in and grab that little handle and start moving it, but just a little bit slower, a little bit more subtle movements. So it's almost barely visible. Again, doing this for the whole duration of the 30 seconds. So now we'll view it again to make sure that it looks right. Yeah, the medallion's not moving as synchronized. It's not as synchronized as it was with the cape. So after viewing that, that looks fine with me. What we'll have to do is group the first 3 layers so that they're contained in one layer. And for ease, I'm going to readjust these layers and delete anything I don't need. Now I'm just deleting any extra layers that are in the way, any tracks that are in the way, just for organizational purposes. So now I'm going to try to extend the blue color, the background, to fit the entire duration of the 30 seconds. It's hard to grab some of these little handles. Since it is one drawing, it's kind of difficult to grab. So I'll have to zoom in further. Or, if you have trouble that way, you can always check the options. And it says to fill the track with that layer. From here, we're going to move the whole group. We're going to use move and scale. Adding keyframes in different places is important. Okay, we're going to put a keyframe for this specific size, like 10 seconds in. But the keyframe above, we're going to move the whole group up and out of the frame. Reduce the size and move it up and out of the frame. For the last keyframe, we're going to zoom in to the image to make it appear that Bizarro is floating towards the camera. So we increase the size and bring the image down to fit the screen. So now we should be able to test it. We're going to have to check on the easing options to make it seem more fluid. I'm going to take my signature and this will be working with the opacity of the image. We're going to have to first change the scale of the logo signature. Add a keyframe right at the head of the video. Increase the size. Move it to a centered position in front of the Bizarro image. Now with the opacity, we're going to put it down to 0. And find a spot where we'd like it to transition to 100% opacity. So right about here, we'll change the opacity to 100%. And make sure that it continues all the way to the end of the video, the animation. So if you don't like where a keyframe is, you can always change the position. So we still want it at 0 opacity to this point. So it has about 10 seconds to reach full opacity. So starting here, the logo will start to appear and reach full opacity. But because this layer is below the Superman or the Bizarro layer, we'll have to move it so that it's in front of the Bizarro layer. And now it'll show. I deleted that last track just to make a clean area. It's a little too close to the swinging medallion, I think. So I'm going to move it down a little further. Now we can see it from the beginning and see how everything kind of works together. Cape movement, the medallion movement, Bizarro's movement, and finally the logo's opacity and visibility. So under track options, For track options here, we're going to set the easing to... Oh, we're looking for easing. Set all easings. I chose linear just to, so it doesn't slow down, it just goes straight through. I wanted to adjust the clouds as well. Can make them look like there's slight movement. And this will be done just by scaling the layer itself. So again, 3 fingers to make sure you see the whole track. Add a move and scale keyframe. And we can manually change the size of the background, the clouds. Going to increase the size so that it spills out past the viewing frame. So the bottom edge is the first keyframe. The last keyframe will have slight movement down for the clouds. It's not very obvious, it's very subtle. But this is pretty much the conclusion of my Bizarro animation. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe.